Imagine a castle so absurdly expensive that it makes Buckingham Palace looks like a budget Airbnb. We're talking about a fortress dripping with gold, carved with cosmic secrets, and built entirely from coal money and religious obsession. Welcome to Cardiff Castle, Britain's $4 billion fever dream. What makes it the Fortress of Fortune? When most people think of royal grandeur in the United Kingdom, their minds instantly jump to Buckingham Palace or Windsor Castle, the timeless symbols of power, prestige, and monarchy. But here's the twist. Neither of those royal landmarks even comes close to the price tag of a privately built Welsh fortress you've probably never heard of. Hidden in the heart of Cardiff stands a castle so extravagantly crafted that its modern equivalent value is estimated at around $4 billion, quietly overshadowing every royal residence in Britain. What makes Cardiff Castle so fascinating isn't just its price, but its sheer complexity. It's not one castle, but many. A living architectural timeline layered over 2,000 years of British history. Beneath its Victorian towers lie Roman walls, still standing from the 3rd century. Above them, a Norman keep watches over the city like a medieval relic. And soaring beyond that, Victorian Gothic spires rise into the sky, a flamboyant expression of industrial age ego. It's a structure that doesn't just tell history, it collects it, piece by piece, era by era. Walk through its gates and you'll feel like you've stepped into an architectural fever dream. There's the 132-foot clock tower, proudly stabbing the sky, its turrets decorated with statues representing the planets. Inside are entire bachelor apartments, each themed after time, the cosmos, and the seasons. Because apparently, when you're a billionaire Victorian aristocrat, one room per hobby just isn't enough. Every wall, ceiling, and staircase feels like it's competing for your attention. And then there's the famous Arab room, the showstopper of the entire castle. A chamber so gilded and intricate that it feels more like a hallucination than interior design. Its ceiling alone used roughly £8 million worth of gold leaf, each fragment applied meticulously by hand, square inch by square inch, until the room quite literally glowed. Imagine spending the cost of a modern London skyscraper on a single ceiling. But Cardiff Castle was never meant to be modest. It wasn't built for defense, comfort, or even vanity. It was a statement, a manifesto carved in stone declaring that industrial money could rival royal blood. Every wall and carving was designed to show that the new aristocracy, powered by coal, not crowns, could build something even the monarchy would envy. And yet, this towering expression of wealth wasn't commissioned by a king or a queen. No, the mind behind this golden fortress was something far more unusual. A shy, scholarly coal tycoon who believed beauty was sacred and wealth was simply a tool to build heaven on earth. But behind this golden fortress was no monarch or king, just a shy, eccentric coal tycoon who built his own version of heaven. The Billionaire Baby and the Origin Story. Our story's unlikely protagonist was John Crichton Stuart, better known as the 3rd Marquess of Bute. And his life began with a twist worthy of a novel. In 1847, he inherited his title and the vast Bute family fortune at just 6 months old, instantly making him Britain's richest baby. Before he could even walk, he technically owned half of Cardiff. The Bute family's wealth didn't come from royal lineage or ancient conquests. It came from coal, specifically the Welsh steam coal that powered the Industrial Revolution and the entire British Empire. Their land conveniently sat atop some of the richest coal seams in the world, and they owned the docks through which it was exported. Cardiff, once a sleepy port town, exploded into a global industrial powerhouse under their control. By 1913, Cardiff was exporting over 11 million tons of coal every year, outpacing London and Liverpool combined. The Bute family effectively turned Cardiff into the fuel capital of the world, a Victorian Dubai built on black gold. And while the Royal Navy was guarding Britain's seas, it was doing so using fuel that came straight from Bute-owned coalfields. For perspective, young John's annual income in the 1860s was around £300,000, roughly £380 million in today's money, and that was without lifting a finger. His fortune grew passively through coal royalties and urban land rents as Cardiff expanded. If passive income had a patron saint, it would have been the Marquess of Bute. But what makes him interesting isn't his wealth, it's how little he cared for it. Unlike most aristocrats of his time, who spent their fortunes on horse racing, lavish parties, or scandal, Bute was the exact opposite. He was painfully shy, introspective, and almost monk-like in his habits. Raised largely by women after his father's death, he developed a quiet, bookish temperament and a fascination with theology, architecture, and ancient languages. At 21, he shocked Britain by converting to Catholicism, a scandal so intense that it inspired Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli to write a novel, Lothair, loosely based on him. In Protestant Victorian society, this was borderline treasonous. A nobleman rejecting the state religion was practically a national crisis. But for Bute, faith wasn't a social statement, it was personal conviction. To him, architecture was sacred, a way to express divine beauty through human craftsmanship. He believed Gothic architecture wasn't just a style, but a language of the soul. And with his wealth, he could quite literally build his beliefs into stone. With faith as his compass and coal as his currency, Bute went searching for an architect who could turn devotion into design, and found a man as madly inspired as himself. The Gothic visionary who made it possible. Enter William Burges, the eccentric genius who would become the artistic counterpart to Bute's vision. When the two met in 1865, it was less like an architect meeting a client and more like two zealots discovering a shared religion. Both men were obsessed with the medieval world, its cathedrals, craftsmanship, and symbology. To them, the Gothic style wasn't nostalgia, it was a moral revival. They believed industrial Britain had traded beauty for efficiency, and they wanted to fix that, one flamboyant turret at a time. Burges, already known for his wildly imaginative designs, suddenly found himself holding the architectural equivalent of a blank check. Bute gave him what no architect had ever received in history: unlimited funds and absolute creative freedom. It was the dream, or the most dangerous invitation, depending on how you see it. What followed was 16 years of uninterrupted artistic indulgence. Burges didn't just design Cardiff Castle, he manufactured it. Dedicated workshops were set up for every craft imaginable: stone carving, metalwork, stained glass, tapestry weaving, tile painting, and wood carving. Dozens of master artisans worked full-time under his direction, producing thousands of unique pieces that existed nowhere else in the world. Every single item, from the fireplaces to the hinges, was custom designed. Burges once remarked that good art is far too rare and far too precious ever to be cheap, and he meant it. There was no mass production here, no catalog orders. Even a door handle had to carry meaning, often designed with symbolic engravings or mythological motifs. And beneath the medieval spectacle, Burges hid the height of Victorian innovation. The castle had gas lighting, heating ducts, and indoor plumbing, all cleverly disguised behind Gothic ornamentation so they wouldn't disrupt the aesthetic. It was the 19th century equivalent of having a smart home that looked like a monastery. The result was a structure that blurred the line between art, architecture, and obsession. Together, Bute and Burges weren't just building a castle, they were building a philosophy. Every stone, symbol, and mural was an attempt to redeem industrial wealth through divine art. And if you think that sounds extravagant, wait until you step inside the castle, where gold ceilings meet cosmic symbolism and every inch whispers a secret. Rooms of heaven and hell. If you thought the outside of Cardiff Castle was a showstopper, now is the time I take to a grand tour of this otherworldly castle. This isn't just decor. It's a philosophical fever dream painted in gold and marble. Every room was designed to represent some grand idea: time, virtue, the cosmos, or creation itself. Think of it as the world's most expensive philosophy book, only instead of being written, it's built. The clock tower rises 132 feet above Cardiff, but it's not just there to impress the skyline. It's a literal temple to time. Inside are 7 rooms, each dedicated to a day of the week, each themed around cosmic order. The winter smoking room greets you with a ceiling painted in zodiac constellations and walls lined with Norse gods representing the weekdays. You can almost imagine the Victorians puffing cigars under Mars, Wednesday's ruling planet, pretending they understood astrology as much as they understood empire. Climb a little higher, and the summer smoking room turns the cosmos into interior design. A painted dome becomes a night sky, with constellations swirling above a golden chandelier shaped like the sun itself. The light bounces off glass inlays, creating a galaxy of reflections that dance across the floor, like living inside a planetarium made for a pharaoh. Then comes the library, where red and gold walls glow under soft candlelight. Carved cherubs hold scrolls etched with the names of Shakespeare, Molière, and Milton, while wooden monkeys crouch above, reading the Book of Truth, a subtle nod to Darwin and the Victorian obsession with evolution. It's witty, it's weird, and it's utterly brilliant. And tucked away upstairs? Lord Bute's bedroom, where theology meets vanity. Nearly 200 beveled mirrors in the ceiling reflect his name, John, written in Greek, creating an infinite kaleidoscope of identity. Surrounding him, stained glass windows depict the 7 churches of Revelation. Imagine falling asleep to your own name glowing above you, multiplied into eternity. Every surface, carving, and painting inside Cardiff Castle means something. It's not random luxury. It's layered symbolism, a coded encyclopedia of religion, art, and science, written in gold and stone. And hidden behind all this beauty is one room that outshines them all, a chamber where sunlight and gold fuse into divine art. The Arab Room, gold without end. Now we enter the room that stops everyone in their tracks. The Arab Room. If Cardiff Castle were a crown, this would be its diamond. Designed by William Burges in the Herbert Tower, this single chamber was so extravagant that it cost more than most entire Victorian mansions. First, the ceiling, an intricate muqarnas masterpiece inspired by Islamic architecture, hand-carved in wood and then entirely covered in gold leaf. Not just a few sheets, but a mountain of it. Roughly £8 million worth applied by hand over months of meticulous work. Each flake placed with monk-like patience until the ceiling shimmered like a liquid sun. Burgess wasn't interested in cheap imitation. He wanted authenticity, and for that, he went straight to the source, importing artisans from the Middle East to recreate traditional Islamic decorative techniques. No shortcuts, no inspired by nonsense, just the real deal, replicated in Victorian Wales. To make room for his vision, Burgess literally removed 2 entire floors of the tower, creating a soaring golden chamber that seems to defy gravity. The walls feature Egyptian crystal inlays that refract sunlight into shimmering patterns, transforming the room into a live kaleidoscope every time daylight passes through. The effect is hypnotic, a golden aurora swirling around you. The walls and columns are cloaked in Italian marble, and the window shutters, called mashrabias, are carved in intricate geometric detail, diffusing light just like they would in a Cairo palace. It's east meets west in the most flamboyant way imaginable. Gothic idealism fused with Islamic geometry, all wrapped in a billionaire's budget. And right there, gleaming above the doorway, is the inscription, John, Marquess of Bute, built this in 1881. It's not a plaque, it's a proclamation. His name immortalized in gold, his ambition carved into architectural scripture. But even billionaires have limits, and Cardiff's gold-plated fantasy came at a price that would make modern royals blush. The £4 billion dream. Let's talk numbers. The part that makes accountants cry and historians whistle. Cardiff Castle's total construction cost? About £2.5 million in Victorian money, roughly $4 billion today. To put that in perspective, that's more than it cost to build 50 Windsor castles. Back in 1865, the entire British Army's annual budget was around £14 million, meaning Lord Bute casually spent nearly 18% of Britain's military budget on fancy ceilings, carved monkeys, and celestial smoking rooms. That's not wealth. That's empire-level spending on interior design. And when you stack it up against other legendary builds, it's almost laughable. Windsor Castle's massive 14th century renovation, a mere £51,000, around £70 million today. Bavaria's Neuschwanstein Castle, the one that inspired Disney, $47 million equivalent. Cardiff Castle outspent it by a factor of 100. The reason? Every single thing inside Cardiff Castle was bespoke. Nothing came from a catalog, nothing was prefabricated. Every handle, hinge, and hearth was designed, carved, and gilded by hand. It was luxury without a ceiling, quite literally. Unlike royal palaces, which needed parliamentary approval and financial oversight, Cardiff Castle was funded privately. No committees, no limits, no one to say, maybe that's enough gold for one ceiling, John. The result was the most expensive personal architectural project in British history, a passion project that became a national legend. But here's the fascinating twist. This wasn't reckless spending. It was an economic engine. The project employed hundreds of craftsmen, artisans, and laborers for 16 years. It pumped money into Cardiff's growing economy and gave the city a creative identity long before its coal wealth began to fade. So yes, it cost billions. But in return, it bought immortality. Cardiff Castle became the ultimate flex of the Victorian age. Wealth turned into art, ego turned into legacy. But behind all that gold, the castle hides something else as well, a network of tunnels that once protected far more than treasure. The hidden fortress. You'd never guess that beneath all the chandeliers and marble fireplaces, Cardiff Castle hides something far grittier, a wartime secret carved into its Roman bones. Beneath the gold ceilings and Gothic towers lies an underground maze that once saved lives instead of hosting lavish parties. During World War II, the castle's ancient Roman walls were quietly repurposed into air raid shelters, capable of protecting over 1,800 people from German bombs raining down on Cardiff. Imagine it. Upstairs, the Arab room shimmered with £8 million worth of gold leaf, while downstairs, people huddled beside ration tins, coughing through the echo of air raid sirens. The contrast is almost surreal. One level was art, faith, and wealth. The other was fear, endurance, and hope. Yet somehow they belong to the same building. Two sides of British history coexisting under one roof. These bunkers weren't just dusty tunnels. They were engineered with ventilation systems, bunk beds, toilets, and even communication lines to the city's defense network. It was like a miniature city hidden inside an ancient fortress, where stone and steel teamed up to defy destruction. The echoes of Victorian engineering came to life again, not to glorify, but to protect. By day, soldiers used the castle grounds for coordination drills. By night, civilians would descend beneath the towers as bombers howled above. The irony? A castle once built as a monument to vanity became a sanctuary of survival, the safest place in Cardiff during its darkest hours. When the war ended, those tunnels were sealed and forgotten for decades, silent witnesses to an age when beauty met brutality head-on. But when the bombs stopped and the dust settled, Cardiff Castle wasn't just a fortress anymore. It was a legend reborn. The business of royal beauty. Fast forward a few decades, and Cardiff Castle trades its military secrets for something far more glamorous: tourism. Today, it's no longer owned by a noble family or guarded by troops. Instead, it belongs to the people, under Cardiff Council, standing as a heritage site that pulls in over 300,000 visitors every year. And make no mistake, this place is a moneymaker. Between tours, weddings, film productions, and festivals, the castle generates millions in tourism revenue annually, fueling Cardiff's hotels, restaurants, and creative industries. Economists estimate its cultural and architectural value at well over £1 billion, easily making it the most expensive castle in the UK today. Not bad for a passion project built by an eccentric Victorian aristocrat. Pop culture hasn't missed out either. If you've ever watched Doctor Who, Sherlock, or Torchwood, you've already seen parts of Cardiff Castle dressed up as alien cities, secret bases, or historical flashbacks. It's become a ready-made movie set, a Gothic Swiss Army knife of cinematic possibilities. Of course, the upkeep isn't cheap. The castle demands tens of millions in restoration and maintenance projects every decade. But the beauty of it all? The estate mostly pays for itself. Every guided tour, every filming permit, every sold-out event funds the next layer of preservation. It's self-sustaining history, luxury that learned how to earn its keep. And somewhere in that balance of nostalgia and commerce lies the real victory. The Marquess of Bute's obsession with timeless design became a timeless business model. And through centuries of conquest, coal, and craftsmanship, Cardiff Castle became more than a home. It became a symbol, the legacy of stone and gold. So, what does Cardiff Castle really stand for? Beyond the gold ceilings, medieval towers, and endless selfies from tourists, it represents an era when ambition was limitless and art was treated like divine work. It's the embodiment of the Victorian dream, where money wasn't just spent, it was transformed. Lord Bute and William Burges weren't just builder and architect. They were a duo of obsession, a scholar and an artist trying to resurrect the spirit of the Middle Ages in an industrial age drowning in coal dust. Their collaboration blurred the lines between wealth, religion, and fantasy. What they created wasn't just architecture, it was an argument in stone, proof that beauty could still matter in a world driven by steam and steel. Every wall, every carving, every golden ceiling still hums with that same message. Art outlasts empire. The Bute fortune eventually faded, but the castle remains, defying time, economy, and even war. It fuses faith, science, and storytelling into a single architectural symphony. Unlike royal castles built for conquest, Cardiff Castle was built for conviction, a belief that imagination was a form of worship. It's why even now, 150 years later, it feels alive. Walk through its halls and you don't just see history, you feel it breathing through the marble, whispering through the murals, glittering across that golden ceiling. And if I were to sum it up, Cardiff Castle isn't just Britain's most expensive home. It's a golden reminder that art, faith, and madness often live under the same roof. With this defining statement, we conclude our journey through the most expensive and luxurious castle in the UK. What did you like the most about this massive fortress? Let us know in the comments, and for more such interesting peeks into luxury and wealth, take a look at the channel.